Hello, you guys. Welcome to my little paintbrush. Today we're painting Harry Potter with Hedwig on his shoulder. We love Harry Potter here at My Little Paintbrush, so we're really excited to add a new addition to our collection. So hopefully you're excited too. This one's going to be a lot of fun. I've got 3 brushes here that I'm going to use. If you have our paint kit, you should have these exact same sizes within your paint kit and all the other supplies I'm going to use. If not, hopefully you just found some supplies around the house, you've prepped a surface, and you're ready to go, because really it's all about you enjoying the process. I've got a flat, a detail, and a round. The round is optional. You could probably do this entire painting with your flat and your your flat and your detail, but it's nice to have that medium size in case you run into any issues that make you feel like you need to go to a smaller brush. As we are painting, please feel free to pause this video, to rewind it, to review a step, to fast forward it if I'm going too slow, to take a few days to paint this if you need to. I'm going to keep a pretty steady pace, but remember, you don't have to. This is your painting in the end, and you need to just go at your pace, okay? All right, we're going to get our flat brush. I've got 2 jars of water. Make sure you have that handy. Here is my plate of paint. The only thing I would really suggest you do is to separate your piles of white. That way you don't contaminate one big pile at the beginning of your painting, and then you don't have clean white paint for the duration of your creation. Okay, we're going to start with our skin tone in Harry's face. Okay, skin tones can be a little bit tricky, but this is fun because you have brown, red, and orange, or red and yellow, so that you can create sort of the perfect tone with those 3 colors. I'm mostly just going to use white and brown. Little white, little brown, mixed together, just little bits of paint at a time. Don't go too heavy with adding browns until you mix a little bit so you see where you're at, because these stronger colors will change the tone of your paint quickly. I'm going to add actually just a touch of yellow, believe it or not. I just want to kind of give a little bit of warmth to that color, but that's really all I'm going to do, is use the brown, white, and yellow. If you want more of a pinky tone, you can pull in some red. As soon as you have the color that makes you happy, and I'm just going to add a touch more white because our paint will dry darker on our canvas than how we see it on our plate or our palette, so keep that in mind too. I'm going to go ahead and begin, and I'm going to paint Harry's face. And I'm going to go around these eyes if I can. If you have our kit, it's a bit tricky to really see where those eyes are. When we painted this in class the other day, it was a little bit tricky. We do our best to give you as many lines as we can, but sometimes it kind of gets confusing. But if you can see, you're making an oval shaped eye, and just kind of do the best you can. We'll do some cleanup work, so don't stress too much about it. You can, though, paint right through the glasses line. Don't try and go around those. A lot of times what happens is the cute kiddos will go completely around the glasses, and they'll forget that actually the glasses are glass, so you can see the skin tone behind it, and then they'll just have this white circle. So make sure you go through those glasses. And then we're going to go around our hairline, go up in our little ear. Fun thing about Harry is he has this black hair, and so if we get paint the skin tone in his hairline, it's really not going to be a big deal, right? Because we're going to have that black hair is going to cover it right up. I'm just filling this in. I'm using the toe of my brush to get in between all of those hairs. Harry always has that messy hair look. So I'm using the toe of my brush to go in those. And here is our cute little face. Now we have a hand down here. It's just barely there. It's hard to pick up on. In fact, I have painted over it many times, but you just want to put like this little dash stroke, brush stroke of paint right there so that when you do your robe, you can see it. Okay, perfect. Let's just add some water to our paint because we're going to do a little bit of floating. And that just means we're going to blend two colors into each other. Get the skin tone on your brush and then go into that brown and just put a little bit on the corner of your brush so that as you do a stroke, you can see it's dark on one edge, one little line, and then it fades into the other. And we're just going to add a shadow around Harry's face. This can be as prominent as you want it to be, you know? Again, don't let the hairline and all this messy look stress you out too much right now because this is step number 1 and we are going to have lots of steps with this painting, and so it's okay if it looks a little messy right now. We're going to clean it up, I promise. This is usually when a lot of the stress starts to happen because we're like, oh, this looks really weird and messy and it's not the way I was wanting it. Just trust the process. So I'm coming around again. You can see I'm getting some brown in the hair, and I'm not stressed about that because once we get that hair in, it's going to be just fine. And come up on this ear, give a little bit of a shadow there, and then connect it down here on the chin. So good. See how that little bit of a shadow just really like forces that to stand out? I love that. You can do a little bit on the hand if you're feeling super like, I want everything to come together. You can do that. So awesome. Let's wash our brush. Now that we've got that in, if you're feeling like your face needs another layer of paint, feel free to do that. It just really depends on how much you've loaded your brush. I might actually put a little bit more right there. The amount of white in your paint, like all of that really will affect the amount of layers that you need. So if you need to pause it and add some more paint, you can do that. Okay, let's jump into our background, which is a light blue. So I'm going to take a little bit of blue here and mix it with some white. My paint is literally dripping all over my canvas. Not my canvas, my palette. I don't have words today. It's dripping all over my palette. They're bleeding into each other, which is totally fine, but it's starting to look a little messy. So I'm going to make a light blue. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill in my background. Now we want to be careful around Hedwig because he's white. And these areas right here in between Hedwig and Harry's hair, if you feel like this flat brush is just too big for that step, go ahead and switch to your detail brush, switch to your medium size round brush that we talked about in the beginning, whatever you need to do to feel like you can have control over that situation and get into all those areas. Hedwig will be outlined, so you know, if you can't get right up against those lines, it's okay if there's a little white there or a little extra blue on the edge. Only stress it if you like completely paint Hedwig a long brush stroke of blue. Then be like, ooh, I need to fix that. Otherwise, just keep rolling. He's got his long tail feathers there. So we at the studio really like to wrap our edges. That just means all, you know, the side, the top, and the bottom of our canvas. It gives us a nice completed painting. So we do encourage our artists to do that. So if you want to do that, most of your edges will be your background. So this would be a good time to work on them. The only other color you have is black, and that's when the robes wrap around the bottom. Otherwise, it's just going to be blue. Don't forget those two parts in between Harry's arms. And you can see I'm not as stressed going around the hair or the robes because it's black, guys. So if you get paint in those areas, it's really going to be just fine. As I say that, I went right into my scarf. It's getting a little too confident. Okay. Getting it all filled in. I love Harry's hair, his messy hair. It's so fun to have all these. When it's done, it's fun. Right now, painting around him is kind of a pain, but when it's all finished, it's like super fun look. Okay, so get these little spikies up here. And fill that in. Okay, so now I just have to do that section in between Hedwig and Harry's hair and scarf. I'm going to stick with my flat brush, but I'm going to go to the toe of the brush, which means instead of painting flat like this, I'm going to face it on the toe. By doing that, I'm going to get a much thinner brush stroke, which will just help me maintain control of where that paint is going. And you can see you can still get into these areas with your big brush. You just have to know how to use your tools. And it's not perfect, but these little touches of blue in there won't be a big deal. So if you're still working on your background, pause it. Pause this video, I mean. Don't pause painting. Just pause the video. If you're ready to move on, I like to add some light around my subject. So I'm going to keep the background color on my brush and just put a chunk of white on the edge and then just kind of lighten it up. And it might be kind of hard to see because our background is quite light. So you might have to do a few layers of this white kind of halo around Hedwig and Harry. But it is fun. It kind of makes a difference in my mind on, you know, how we view this piece and the flatness of it. It kind of gives it some dimension and some movement. So I like to just add this. Add it around. This is a step that a lot of artists will skip when they paint with us. So, you know, you have that ability as the artist of your own painting to say, I don't like that, or I'm not interested in that, and skipping it. It is not a big deal. We just like to add these little bits of white. It's good to do it when your paint is wet too, because then it'll blend in a little bit and not be as harsh. If it's blending too much though, you'll want to let your painting dry for a minute before you do it. Okay, just make sure anything that needs extra coverage gets it. And I think we have our background in. Awesome. Okay, let's wash our brush really good. Swish it around. And we're going to jump into our scarf. We've got two scarves to paint. We've got Harry's and Hedwig's. We're going to start with yellow. And I want to add just a little bit of white to my yellow. This is really important for coverage. Yellow is super shy. And so if you don't want to be painting layer after layer after layer, make sure you add some white to your paint. And if you want that really dark golden yellow as the end result, then just do this first layer in a light shade of yellow and then do your second one dark without any white, and you'll get that result. So we're going to start with yellow here. So then we skip skip a stripe on the scarf. Now this will be outlined, the section between the chin and the scarf, so keep that in mind. Always have to tell myself that because I'm a sucker for really clean edges, hence why we do so much outlining in the studio. So I get a little bit of anxiety when I think, oh my gosh, those edges aren't clean and it's bothering me. I have to tell myself, just hang tight. We'll get to it. Okay, so this one is yellow here as we come down the scarf. This first one is yellow. And then we skip one. We do another. Again, you've got these black robes coming in, right? So it's really okay if you get out of your lines a little bit on these. It's not going to matter. That black will clean it right up. We've got this stripe here, and then our last stripe on the bottom. That's this kind of fun, curvy. I love to kind of make scarves look like they're in motion a little bit. So after you go through them, if you feel at all that you need to go over each stripe again, you can do that. If you feel like you need coverage, you can darken up your painting. If you want it to be a little bit darker, you can make that choice. Now I know Hedwig needs a scarf too, but we're going to use our big brush to get Harry's in, and then we'll jump over to Hedwig's. So I'm going to rinse my brush really good because it's had yellow and I don't want orange stripes. We're sticking true to the correct house, right? Gryffindor. Now I am going to add a touch of white to my red. This plate is crazy to control today. You don't want pink, but again, coverage, coverage, coverage. So I'm adding a little bit of white, just a touch. You can even add some brown to it to kind of keep that more maroon color intact. Okay, then once you have the color you want there, we can go ahead and do our red stripes. Keeping in mind, again, we're going to have a nice clean outline where the chin meets the scarf. So we don't need to spend too much time feeling overwhelmed by that section, even though it can be, right? Curve these a little bit, making it look like it's going around his neck. Fill it in. I love that you put a yellow and red scarf around, and you already know I'm painting Harry. It's just so funny. I'm painting something off Harry Potter. Of course, you know, anytime we paint characters, there's this high level of expectation that we put on ourselves. Every time I teach characters, it's like people come into class like, okay, this is it. You know, we got to be on our game today. We are painting somebody that we love and we have this like relationship with as we've read the books and watched the movies or whatnot. And the truth is there are certain features, certain things, certain colors that will just automatically tell your audience and your onlookers, and at the end of class yourself, that this is Harry Potter. And one of them is the scarf. The other one is that, of course, lightning scar on his forehead. These things just automatically, you have painted Harry Potter. And it's like totally obvious that that's who it is, even though it might not be exactly the way that you want him to be. He's still Harry Potter. So again, I've got my stripes in. If I want to go over them, I can totally do that. My paint dries really fast when I'm doing these tutorials because I have a ton of lights on me. And so it goes really quick. So that's why I can kind of do a layer and then another layer back to back. But depending on where you're painting, you might have to wait a second and let it dry. All right, I'm gonna wash my brush really good, and I'm gonna switch to my detail brush to do Hedwig's scarf, okay? We're gonna go ahead and start with yellow. Your details brush is exactly that. It's for details, and people always say, well, how do I know when to use what brush? Big spaces, big brush, small spaces, little brush. So what I'm gonna do is, since these aren't already traced on there for you, you did not get the scarf lines for Hedwig. I know, isn't that so rude? You kind of got to do them yourself. So I did 3 yellow. I'm looking up at my reference here. Make sure I don't steer you guys in the wrong direction. I did 3 yellow stripes. Just like this. And then we'll come down, and it kind of starts where it's disconnected right here. That's going to be your first yellow one. And then your last yellow one is kind of down here at the bottom. And same thing right here. One. And then this one kind of curved. You got to think it's layered right here. So kind of make this one a triangle. It's kind of confusing when you can't see the lines. It's hard for us to get teeny lines on there for you. So I'm going to rinse my brush, and now I'm going to do my red. This one's easier because it's just where you don't have the yellow, right? So I'm going to put that in. He's got his wing right there that curves up, so that's why that's kind of not just flat right there. I want to be a little bit more gentle with Hedwig as you're putting these in, although there will be some lines around his scarf. He's white, so we don't have the like forgiveness of the black robes coming, but there's still a little bit of wiggle room there. Fill these in like that. And then this one just has one right here. Don't get too like fast with it. Kind of slow down if you need to. Make sure you have a nice thin paint and a good steady hand. Nice and thin. Because that'll make a big difference. Thin paint really helps. Nice work. Okay. We are gonna rinse out our brush really good. Take care of that detail. Don't leave it sitting in the water. It'll bend the bristles. Now I think I am gonna jump over to that medium round brush to do Hedwig. So here we go. I'm gonna make some gray. I'm gonna need some gray. So I'm gonna go ahead and make me a little pile of gray here. Might need a little more than that. So I'm going to make some gray with some black and white. It doesn't take a lot of black to make gray, okay? So always start with a little bit. You can add white, but you can't really take black away from it. And then kind of scoop it all in a pile so that you have it all scooped up. Then I'm going to wash my brush really good. Maybe even if you have some clean water, rinse it, because we're going to be using white paint. We want it nice and clean. And the first thing I'm going to do with my white is I'm going to clean up Harry's eyes, okay? Because we really want to see visually what we're looking at with Harry, and we might need to clean those up. So I'm going to go through here and do that first thing. So you can see we're creating that egg shape oval here. Oh, I kept wondering why there's red on this brush. It's because I'm wiping it on my apron and there's red on my apron, so got red on there. I'm thinking, I know I'm washing my brush, right? Okay, there we go. Now let's do the other eyeball. I'm glad I caught that before I had literally gave Harry pink eye. Okay, so let's clean this one up. Curve it around. Nice oval shape. Nothing perfect. Just finding the shape here on both of these. And you can go right over that other line, that other oval inside of your eye, because that's going to be black. And if you can still see that, or if you can hardly see it, it's okay, because we're going to understand that step when we get there. Okay, let's paint Hedwig here. Some white paint. And then we get to add some fun floating in Hedwig. Let's kind of just brush him into Harry's elbow, because we'll find that location in a minute. Just kind of brush it in there. Same with his head. You can go right over the beak if you need to. We're more than anything else, we're just wetting our surface because our canvas is white. Hedwig is white. We just need to wet the surface so that we can do our floating. So I'm going to take this brush and dip it in the corner of my gray. Okay, so I'm floating with a round brush, which is totally doable. Just flatten your bristles as you go. And I'm going to come around Hedwig's head here and onto the scarf and just give a little bit of a shadow. Okay. So again, just come around. This can be heavy or this can be light. It is your painting, you decide. We'll do a little bit up in these hairs, but these hairs are going to be outlined. I should say feathers, because Hedwig doesn't have hair. Hedwig has feathers. But you get what I'm trying to say here. Those are going to be outlined, so we don't have to have like anything super special there. Just the idea of it. And then we're going to come down and do the same thing here. Little bits of gray in there. Shadow under the scarf, shadow around. There's going to be black lines in here too, so we're not judging our poor little Hedwig yet. We're gonna wait on that. Okay, so now we're gonna get this fun wing here. Hedwig will come together pretty quickly. I think it'll surprise you of how he just kind of comes together. With a few of our detail lines, when we get those in, I'm going to add a few little brush strokes like that to indicate some feathers there. Okay, let's see, we're going to give him a little bum right there, sitting on the shoulder, of course. And then we're going to go down into our tail. And right now we're just going to be pretty simple with it. And when we come through with our detail brush, we can be a little bit more detailed. Okay, nice. So that's pretty much all we're going to do with floating in Hedwig. Pretty simple. I got to stand back and look. It's looking amazing. All right, let's see. Where are we at? Let's go ahead and fill in the black part of Harry's eyes so that they can start drying, because we want to put a nice green in there. So I'm going to keep using my medium round brush. I'm going to get some black on there, make sure it's thinned out a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and fill in that oval within the oval. Okay. Let's see here. We can go all the way down I don't love that. I'm going to switch to my flat. There's something with circles and using a flat brush. I just have to use a flat brush. I thought maybe I wanted to use my round, and that was not what I wanted. So you use what you need to use here. But we are going to do the best we can on getting this oval shape. You can even use your detail brush. Just remember to be quite forgiving of yourself, because these ovals and circles will grow. And you have to kind of know when to say, you know what, this is hand painted and it's going to look like it is. I'm going to add a little bit of water to my paint. My black paint is quite thick. Got to remember to keep it diluted. And then let's go around this eye. Filling it in. Like so. That paint got a little thin, so I got to go over it again. Sometimes it's hard to find the balance between a nice thin paint that's going to give you really good lines and a good consistency, and then paint that's like too thin, like watery and drippy. You want to remember we're not watercoloring, this is acrylic paint, and so that balance is sometimes really tricky to find. But I think we're pretty close here. This eye is just causing me a little bit of frustration. So I'm going to get my detail brush and do a little cleanup work on it. Just a little bit. And if you lose a lot of your white as you do this, like I might go back and add a little white around this eye. You can see that eye grew, like I said. So you can do that. You can kind of shave some of that black off if you need to, but let it dry first. So let's loosen up our black paint and go ahead and fill in the hair and the robe. So I'm going to loosen it up with some water. It's been sitting here. The lights have been drying it. I want to get it nice and loose so that I can fill in Harry's hair and robe. Let's start up here with the hair. There's a lot of black here. We got a lot of black, which there's something super therapeutic, I think, about painting with black too. Although it can be kind of scary because it's so like final, you know. It just like cleans up so nicely. And I love that. So here we go. Use the toe of your brush to get those messy hairs that Harry has. And if you're not getting them as clean as you want, you can switch to a detail brush to clean them up. Just whatever you want. Totally up to you on what brush you use and all that good stuff. I feel pretty comfortable with my flat, and so I'll continue to use it, but you can switch it up. Come around here. And sometimes you can get, you know, all this hair in and then go back with a detail brush and really clean up those spiky flyaways if you want as well. So there's different ways to do it. And we'll have our detail brush with black paint in just a second for Hedwig's beak. So then at that time, if you're thinking, I want to make these hairs a little pointier, you'll have the option to do that. Let's go into face here. He's got hairs coming down in here. Trying to close my bristles so that it really gives me the straightest edge as possible. There we go. And then it goes, of course, all the way down to the scarf. And then we got to be careful going around the head. We don't want to shrink Harry's head. And that's what'll happen. It'll start getting smaller and smaller as we go around it. We did one side though. We can do the other. He's got a little sideburn here. Again, I'm going to try and close my bristles so I can get that really fine pointed sideburn. And around that ear might be tricky. In fact, I think I'll stop right here and I'll use my detail brush to finish around the ear and those hairs, the beak. So I'm going to pause right here on the hair, but keep my big brush going so I could fill my robe in. Sometimes that's like one of the hardest steps for me, to leave something unfinished and tell myself, I'm going to go back to it. It's fine. But it's just like the principle of it drives me crazy. Okay, so we're going to paint in these fun sleeves. You know, these robes were so big and baggy on these kids, so that's why they're kind of flowing. Get that big flowy robe. And then we'll butt right up against the scarf. Just get right up next to it. Again, you don't want your scarf to shrink. You've worked hard on that scarf. And if you have any sections like that, teeny white spots, we'll get them with our detail brush, okay? This is a good time to wrap the bottom of your canvas with black too, if you're wrapping your canvas. Have that consistent wrap around. And I've covered this little hand down here so many times as I've taught this. Remember, the hand is down there. All right, just about done with this big brush. And get this in, and then this goes right in front of the hand. His hand's kind of hiding in the background a little bit. So now when you do the shoulder, just are eyeballing that pretty much. Get that in. Again, it's a baggy robe, so don't let that weird you out. And then we've got, go around our little hand. There's so much black on this painting, but I just love how it all just stands out. So fun. Okay, so let's jump back to our detail brush and loosen up our black paint again. Always loosen it. Loosen it up. And then let's go and fill in those areas that we weren't as confident in filling in with our big flat brush. So around this ear, just didn't want to lose that ear, which could happen as you get right up there next to it. Oh, excuse me. Something's tickling my nose. Okay, so right up as close as we can to that scarf and get that hair just finished up right there. Just like that. Awesome. Okay, if you want to go through and like really clean up any of your hairs, make them a little bit pointier, or you know, whatever's making you feel like you want to do, you can go ahead and do that. We can put in Hedwig's beak. Cute little beak there. So fun. And let's go ahead while we've got this detail brush out, let's do some outlining. Okay. Don't worry, we're not doing glasses yet, so you can hold the panic. But we're going to outline the edges of the scarf. This is when you can clean up if you still see some white canvas showing. Clean it up. I want to outline where these two sections meet there in the middle. To me, there was just so much black on this. I felt like in order for it to all blend together and look cohesive, I needed to outline the scarf. It just, for me, that was important. I needed to add those last lines. The nice thing is, because there's so much black, you know, Harry's hair is black, his robe is black, the whole painting looks outlined, but you're not outlining very much. We're gonna do the little hand. Now let's work on Hedwig a little bit. Go ahead and do some outlining on him. Give some cute little hairs. Feathers. Oh my gosh, you guys. Hairs, feathers, something soft. That's what I'm thinking. Go around the head a little. And let's go around the scarf. We're just kind of trying to, again, have a cohesive painting between Harry's look and Hedwig's look. We want to kind of bring them together. So, doing that. And you can really have fun with Hedwig and add more character or feathers, more lines, more details. It's totally up to you. Go around this wing here. If your brush stroke keeps breaking, you need more water, which is what's happening with mine. I should be able to do a longer brush stroke than I'm getting, so I definitely need more water. So I'm going to add some water to my paint. There we go, and then continue. Making these fun feathers. And you can see these lines just bring Hedwig full circle, right? So fun. Okay, so I'm going to go across this. Oh, let's get that sideburn. Let's point that sideburn a little bit. See that? Let's make it nice and pointy. Okay, so now I'm going to go all the way under Harry's chin and around to the other side. It's a little bit tricky, but we did it. Go as long as you can on your brush strokes without picking up your brush. It will truly make a difference on your lines. Let's go ahead and do some eyebrows. Harry needs eyebrows. This one's kind of hidden behind a lot of the hair. This other one is in full view. I gotta make sure I'm not getting black. Nice little eyebrow there. And then of course, the famous scar. So let's do a lightning. Just like that. Oh yeah, see, Harry is coming along. All right, this eye needs another layer here. Again, we're not doing our glasses quite yet. I'm going to flip my brush over and use the bottom of it in my black paint to do Hedwig's eyes. Just going to swirl a nice big eye in there. I'll do one more. And there we go. Of course, trying to make them the same size. I can't really, I'm on an angle here, folks, so can't really see if I've got these similar, but you know what? We're gonna call it a win. We're gonna call it a win because from this angle, it's looking fantastic. All right, let's wash out the brush. See where we're at. Oh, I could have done a smile too, but we'll do those with the glasses. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and add some fun details in Hedwig's head. I've got some gray on my detail brush, and we're just gonna do a few little dashes. This is just a fun addition to that forehead, kind of make it a little, you know, feathery and interesting. Just like that, nothing crazy. You don't want to get it out of control, but it's just a fun little addition. The kids always have a good time with that part. Okay, I'm gonna wash my brush, and I want to make some green for Harry's green eyes, and I've got blue and yellow here on my plate, so of course that's what I need to make green. So I'm going to add a little bit of blue to yellow. You need more yellow than you need blue when you're making green. Once I have a shade that I enjoy, I'm going to add a little bit of white to it, and that'll really start to show you what you've got. I might add a little more blue to it. You can have fun with this, you know, get the perfect shade of green. I like this one right here. This is fun. And we're gonna put like a deep dash line on each eye. So we're just gonna come and just swoop down at the bottom like that. Look how fun that is. Just pops. So again, just start at the top, come around, and there he is, looking in this direction. And you might have to do 2 layers depending. My green is kind of thin. Maybe it's the water on my brush, I'm not sure. It's just a little thinner, so I went over it twice. Sometimes if you have enough white and you're putting it on really thick, you won't need to do 2 layers, but I just felt like mine needed another layer. All right, so let's go ahead and do some highlights before our last step, which of course is Harry's glasses, right? Glasses and the smile. So I'm gonna get my biggest brush, nice and wet. I'm gonna take a minute to loosen up my white paint because it has been sitting here a while and it is starting to seize up on me. And you really, a lot of times we think we need new paint and we really don't. We just need to loosen up the paint that we have. So I'm gonna take a minute to do that. Get it nice and loosened with some water so that I have a nice consistency to work with. And then I'm just going to use a damp brush with some white on a corner to get my highlights in. So I'm using my big flat brush. It's nice and damp. And I'm going to put white on one corner of my brush like this. And then I'm going to take that corner and I'm going to add my highlights. I'm going to start with the shoulder here, and I'm just going to go down like that. So curve around and then brush down. We've got a nice highlight on the shoulder. And then we're going to come up in the armpit a little bit, curve down like that. So we're kind of giving this robe some personality instead of just have this black blob, okay? Let's go ahead and go on the shoulder. An elbow right here. Just like that. Anytime your brush gets a little dried out, just add some more water to it. You want that water to kind of give that faded look to your highlights, but you don't want it to be too drippy, because then we'll have runs down our canvas and all that kind of stuff. Let's highlight the scarf. If you've painted with me, you know how I feel about highlights. It's never the favorite step, but it's definitely an important one. We're going to come up here and kind of make a smiley face highlight, just like so, just kind of right along the top there. Hedwig is white, so we're not going to add any highlights to him. We're going to put a little on the feathers and the eyes and stuff, but let's do Harry's hair first. You don't want Harry to have necessarily a head of gray hair, so you want to like be careful not to overdo it, but adding these bits of white really help, again, with this kind of black blob feel with the hair and the robe, and everything's, you know, a little bit too much black, so this kind of separates that a little bit, and it looks really nice. Of course, you can do this with a detail brush if you're uncomfortable using your flat. I like the look of the flat. It's not as harsh because, again, the water helps that highlight kind of fade and not be just this really harsh line. But if you're more comfortable with the detail and you like the look of that, by all means, you do you. All right. Getting all these highlights in. Looking fantastic. We are so close to the finish line here. Let's flip our brush over, dip it in white paint. Okay, so we make a chocolate chip, and let's do a couple of light reflections in Harry's eyes. I like to do a big one, and I like to do a small little one. We're also going to jump over to Hedwig and do the same thing, so they're kind of matching. So big one and little one, and they're looking at each other, of course, because they're friends, right? Best little buds. Let's grab our detail brush to do a highlight on Hedwig's beak and a few in the scarf for Hedwig, because it's hard to use that big, bulky brush. Okay, now it's time to get our glasses in. Make sure your black paint is nice and thin, and then just do the best that you can. Circles are tricky, especially when we're trying to do a thin lined circle. So we're gonna follow our pencil mark as best we can, and you can come back and do a little bit of cleanup if you need to. But really, the truth of the matter is, it's not gonna be perfect, and you just kind of have to roll with that, okay? So let's go ahead and do our other one. All the way around. And again, come back if you need to. And you can thicken little parts of the glasses if you feel like that part needs to be a little bit thicker, or that doesn't match the other rim. You can do little things like that, but trust me, you could be on these glasses all day long. There's no easy way around it. Okay, let's do a little hook where the nose would be. And I didn't choose to connect them behind any ears. You can choose to do that. I tried several times and ended up washing it off, so I'm just gonna leave it like this. And now I'm gonna add a nice smile because, of course, Harry is happy as can be. And there you have it, you guys. We did it. We finished Harry. I hope you love it. Let's go ahead and sign our name. It shows the world we're super proud of our art, as we should be. Go ahead and find a good spot. And you can use any color you want, and you can sign your painting any way you want. You can create a signature that's unique to you. You can just do your initials. Really, the sky's the limit with your signature. It's just your mark saying this is your painting. Anyway, thanks for joining me today. I would love to see your paintings, so share them with us on social media at My Little Paintbrush. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed painting this today, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, guys.